That will go down as one of the Warriors' classics, a classic one of an underdog coming through and winning when no one expected it against the Premiership winning Penrith Panthers. It was just beautiful to watch, to see all the young guys step up, to see just our team really shine in that moment. So I'm still overawed. I've been watching, 10 replays. I haven't watched a bit of slow mo yet, but I'm just pumped to get at it. So, but guys, if you are here for the first time at Wise Up TV, give us a like and subscribe. We appreciate all your support, and we do it for all of you guys who are interested in the New Zealand Warriors. Look, just get my overall thoughts. The game last night, on Sunday night, sorry, I was not expecting that result. Being a realist, at times I felt we were just going to be out of our depth, and especially with the mixed changes, it was like a social team put together. It felt as though like this was just going to be unorganized chaos, and the best we could do was just try and and defend for our lives and keep the score as low as we could. Now, how upon reflection, stupid I feel about doubting obviously Webby, but also the players that showed that they could compete at this level, especially our junior players. It was just awesome to see, and to get a win like that, a nail biter, and in that fashion against the Premiership Penrith Panthers. I couldn't be prouder. Could not be prouder, and it felt like something that our club has needed for the last couple of weeks. 4 or 5 losses, and it was great to see Webby in the press conference, just happy, happy and calm and reflective. And I think that type of performance supports everything that he's been doing, everything that the club has been trying to build. And I'm just, as a fan, I'm in awe. I celebrate them, and I just emotionally am just so pumped, excited, and now looking forward to the future. Not that I wasn't before. I'm sure I felt as though Webby would get things right and get things going, but now it feels like we really are on the front foot and that things can move forward, especially going into a bye, and then post the bye, having a bunch of guys ready, fit, and able to go into this back end of the season and get ourselves in a good spot. Firstly, go back to the game. I thought we, from the get go, showed signs that we were going to be dominant, and that's something I didn't believe we could do against the Penrith Panthers. If you actually look back at the game last year, Penrith actually ran us off the field. We just couldn't keep up by the end of it. I think the game ended up being about 20-12 or 22-12, something like that type of scoreline. And that stage of the Webby era, I suppose, we had some harsh calls at the time. I remember the CEO of One NZ, called that one out. So we were kind of in a different phase as a club at that time. But it was great to have a Magic Round matchup against Penrith again and kind of see where we're at. And obviously a totally different side, with a bunch of youngsters. But to see that we were able to keep up, and momentum-wise and speed of the ruck and defensively, we put them under the pump, and you could tell they were huffing and puffing. They couldn't keep up with us. The speed of the play, the ball, the directness of the attack, defensively sound. We really aimed up well in our contact areas with all of their players. I think we nailed tackles on JFH. We nailed tackles on Leota, on Yo. We really started to aim up physically and keep everything as tight as possible. And so when we got into the grind, it didn't feel like we were out of place. In fact, we felt that we were like a dominant team, and that's, I think, much credit to the guys having a freshness, having kind of a different way of attacking. I loved seeing the short side raids from CNK, where he really worked the numbers well with Barnett. You saw that little first one where Montoya got a line break, and things were starting to move the pieces. We were starting to move the pieces on the board around in a different way than we have been, and that was exciting to see. And then Tamaide started off. I think he misfired on a few kicks, but then eventually found his feet. And the three of them, Walker, Tamaide, and CNK, and I had an actually Tane to a picky as well, had a really good, well balanced approach to the attack. I think Walker, obviously for me, he was the one directing the ship. He was so direct. He was in control of where the ball went. I think we need him on the ball as much as we possibly can moving forward. Even with Tohu, I would like to see Walker more involved at directing the ship. I felt though he had the right calls. Sometimes he'd play it short, and it was the right call to play it short. Sometimes he played out the back, and it was the right call to play it out the back. So it was really well balanced in that sense that he was able to pick his moments really well, and just great footy IQ. I've been preaching about Walker as one of the best signings for the club. Uh, and Barnett, is looking like another great one as well. Everyone that came pretty much in that crew has done a wonderful job. But specifically Walker, and especially in the attacking spaces, just has a really clued on idea. And if you look at our shape as well, on either side, Barnett was a really good guy to set a line, set a shape. Pompey as well, good on his lines as a centre. He's very aware of what he needs to do. Centres, the position is very much about setting shapes, setting lines, making sure that you're either a decoy or you can be used as an attacking threat, but posing a threat doesn't mean you are the threat. Doesn't mean you're going to get the ball, but at least present yourself as that. And I think the on both sides of the ball of the field, we're really good at that. So when that first try, and specifically CNK went put Montoya over, that was just refreshing to see, and to see the skill set of CNK, that he's able to do that. That is something else. And see Montoya go over, and that shape, that little left side shape, looked really nice, well balanced. Little double pump there from Montoya, CNK. Got Taruva bid on it a little bit, and the finish by Montoya was awesome. So it was just great to see that left channel starting to open up, and a different approach. As I said, a well-balanced approach between Walker, Tamaide, and CNK. It felt really well-balanced attacking-wise. And then those HIAs, I no doubt would have felt like they had an impact. I felt as though Egan going off, it felt, man, we're really down and out. And then Ford was off as well for a little bit. Montoya had to go off. I was like, it's just not our day. Leatoa had a foot injury, it looked like. And yeah, he did have a foot injury. So it was just feeling as like one of those days where we'll put up our best fight, but eventually we will get taken down. But Paulie Roach, what a revelation he was. I think he lifted the tempo, the momentum, had a different style of approach, saw different openings, what he could do as well out of the ruck, his speed. If you think of Egan's more manipulative, can kind of find little creases and burst through those. Paulie was almost directly coming off the ruck and going straight at the A defender. So it's a different style, but very forceful and powerful, athletic, and then he'd set the shape. And it was just really nice to see a different approach. Not a better approach, but just a difference, and maybe catching Penrith off guard a little bit. I love that he didn't force the pass. And sometimes when you're a new hooker, you want to try and dart from dummy half when you're on the opponent's try line. And even though that was crowded, he didn't force it. He just passed the ball away, made sure that he checked the numbers and pushed the ball on. Defensively, I thought he really aimed up as well. He didn't look out of place out there. And I think he'll find his feet over time, but he looks like a player that definitely has a future in the NRL. But over time, I think he'll get even better. But for that performance, he played out of his skin. Absolutely played out of his skin. So yeah, to see that we maintained momentum and that we were competing. I mean, at 6, I think it was 4 all, 6 all, 6-4 might have been, and the errors that Penrith made, I think we actually forced them, and I think that was part of. I had a good short talk with Ash, and he mentioned that they forced those that we forced those errors, and if you look at it, it was, and there was a little bit of frustration in the errors. There was good tackle by Jazz, I think, got a knock on. There was a skip pass from Fisher Harris that went out. And I think it's a good example of Ash brought it up as well. When Luai is running the team, it looks a little bit more frenetic. It looks a little bit more rushed, and you could just tell that these weren't errors that Penrith typically made. But I suppose with the dominance of Cleary, you're able to get into your shape and structure a little bit more. So I think we won that kind of battle of the halves, directing the team around. Whereas you could tell with Luai, they didn't have a lot of that shape, especially coming out of their own end. I think we more than matched them in terms of yardage, and our back five were real awesome. I thought going back to Tane Tuopiki, he just really plays well within his skill set. He knows the size of his body. He knows that he needs to go down when he doesn't need to try and fight for extra yardage. He gets the most that he can. His effective, his speed. I thought the speed of him and Roach around the ruck and one out from the ruck was really good. It kept Penrith on their toes, kept them tired. So just a lot of credit goes to him and the team. But yeah, and then I think going into halftime, we had that little period where we couldn't quite crack it, and I think that's kind of a frustration at times that our offense can't really break teams down quickly. But the Isaiah Yo sin bin helped, I think, speed up the process in terms of we got two really quick tries. The try to Leatoa was really well done. Leatoa just looks like an absolute wrecking ball and future force of the league. He looks damaging and drew a lot of attention. But Tamaite with the deft little passes and touches. And I've got to give credit to Tamaite. He didn't force anything that didn't need to be forced. He played the right options. I actually really liked the one where he was fifth and final and he goes to kick, and then I think Martin might have rushed him, and then he ran through and then drew him past the CNK. It was a great little pass as well, and then they kind of got tackled. But I like the idea that I like that little eyes up footy. I love that he can kind of burst through in little pockets with speed, and CNK was there, and so they linked up quite well. Just looked really different and well balanced. In credit to Webby getting the guys ready, prepared to be able to play, and trusting a guy like Tamaire to be able to perform to that level. I thought his kicking game after those first couple of kicks was really, really good. The kicking almost to the outside line, it really pinned Edwards in and kind of kept them hemmed in, tore out of the game a lot. I think we contained Brian, even though Brian is an absolute beast. We did our very best to keep him out of dangerous positions, and defensively, our boys aimed up as much as they could on him. But yeah, going into the half, even though I think it was might be 10-4 down, unfortunate the Luai try, but it was just at times we just can't contain a team like Penrith, and that's fair on. It's only fair that happened. But going into the half, you felt confident, and then to get those two tries, and I love the little adjustment, and this is what I was talking about. I know I mentioned to drop Tamaite as a 5'8", but I felt as though we weren't using his skill set, and it's great to see him at halfback use his lead run as well, use the little short ball. He actually used his centres as the lead runners, and then would have either Chance out the back with the winger, or on the other side it might have been Tuopiki out the back as well, and it just drew a lot of attention. And I think like the likes of Leatoa and Pompey just played their roles really well, and then those passes were just well timed, well drilled. Everyone did a really good job attacking wise. And then we had that little tough period where they scored 2 tries, and the resilience for the boys to aim up and continue, for me, was just, not putting their heads down, realizing that it's only, a try or 2. It's not the end of the world, and then getting straight back into the game, forcing errors. I think, the level-headedness, especially I thought the back five of Montoya and Dallin and their carries were good. They didn't try and force a pass on there under pressure. They took the high ball really well. I think Montoya, has taken that little knock to go to cup and come back up. I think he's taken that positive, and you can sense in his work rate. I mean, you can never fault Montoya for work rate and effort. I think that's really the strength of his game. But to see the finishing, I thought was absolutely awesome as well. And the little details in terms of defensively, yes, he kind of trusted in Pompey. Pompey missed the tackle, but that's fine. Didn't have to over jam. He didn't. I think a lot of his reads were pretty much good and safe under the high ball, which is really important. Same for Dallin. Don't think he dropped a single high ball, even under the sun. Just felt very confident, and the guys looked really sharp. But yeah, moving into the back end of the game, the resilience that our boys played. I just want to actually give a quick shout out to Webby and keep the momentum up. I think you got to talk about Jazz specifically and the way he played. 20 carries, I think, for 150 something meters. The energy that he brought defensively, grass cutting guys, making sure. I think he forced a knock on, um, and his carries were very direct. Footwork, first time, well, not first time probably, but Jazz little late footwork at the line. I think he did a hit and spin on Leota and got through the line. It was one of his really good games. If you think about Jazz, I think that was probably one of his, maybe up there, and maybe his top 3 games. I think he was just one of those really good quality games from Jazz. Laban for me was stiff in defense, like could hang. He didn't have a great running or attacking game, didn't need to, but he held his own physically, powered through guys like JFH. Yo was able to hold his own, and that's what you want to see from our guys like Laban. Can he hold his own? And for a young guy, did not look out of place. So yeah, defensively we held really well throughout the game, and then yeah, like I said, coming into the back end of the game to get that try for Tane, to work it, to get the kick go to 22-20. A little bit of chaos at the end. We give away the penalty, but Penrith, I thought they would have definitely have gone for the tap, but to go for that kick and to bomb, and then us close the game out was just, it's one of those classic games. As a Warriors fan, you just love to see it. That's always been the beauty of the club for those that have been following the club, is the being the underdog. No better feeling, and especially Suncorp, it's a magical place. We always have, not always, but for the majority of Suncorp has been a great place to watch footy as a Kiwis fan and as a Warriors fan. It's that was exciting. Now I've talked about, I don't think there's anything that can jumpstart the season, but for me, if there was ever a game that jump started things and got us on a roll, that might be the one. Be interested to see what Webby's selections are moving forward. Especially this game is, I think, the last one before we go into a bye, and then the majority of guys should be coming back. So CHT is technically, I think, listed to come back this round. Marata is listed to come back. So interesting. Do you keep the same team that built that momentum, or do you change it up? So there's some questions to be asked, but I want to go back to this as my main point. It's great to see, like I've mentioned, that this was a mix and match team, a team on paper, combinations, there were none in key places. Once the HIAs happen, I mean, you got Tamaida with Paulie Roach and CNK and Tane and Walker. But it really worked. Well, the key thing for me was that we played a little bit freer. We offloaded it, I think, a little bit with a bit more freedom. We needed those offloads. We needed to generate second phase play. But we still played within the system. We didn't go free for all, just pass the ball around. We played our structures. We played a little different types of structures, different little shapes that I suppose we don't usually play with Egan and Sean. And so I think that put Penrith off. I think Penrith's defense actually was set back a bit. They didn't jam because I suppose we weren't in those usual spots typically. So it wasn't as easy to read. I thought they did a good way of disguising it. Sometimes Tamaida would set up on the right and then he'd quickly shift left. So little details I thought were really good. Kept Penrith on their toes. And I think the lead running and the conviction of our centres and back row really played a good role in making sure we got those tries over the line. But ultimately, it's a good reflection of Webby that his system, when it's executed well, and even with guys from New South Wales Cup, let's just call it what it was a makeshift team, was able to get a result against the premiership winning Penrith Panthers. So it tells you, it goes back to his comments about, yes, we've been right side dominant, but when we've executed it, no one can stop us. I think there's a little bit of truth to that, but also the realization that you have to keep teams evenly balanced, but execute at a high level. So I think he's opened up the left side. They've done a great job of that, but they've got the team well balanced. But everyone, you can see the little details, and And Barnett said it in his presser after. It wasn't about changing, you know, the players around. It was about whoever was in those roles needed to execute with exactness, with precision, with intention to score. And that's a big part of the reason why we were successful. Defensively, for me, that was probably one of the better, close to the best defensive performances. We scrambled well, but the defense at the line, we kept it very, very tight. Now, I use the example, it was kind of like Street Fighter was Ken versus Ryu. Same combo list. And you saw, the Panthers almost used exactly the same tries as how we scored. So I think Webby had a good read on how they might play, and I think Tamade mentioned that Webby gave them obviously some heads up and tips on what to do. I think that was helpful. So it was kind of it was a battle of two teams that play a similar style, and ultimately we came on top. But yes, I want to acknowledge Webby and his system, and it supports everything that he's implemented from a academy level, from a development level right through. So I think that's really, really important, that we acknowledge the coaching staff and the club, that some of their juniors now are coming through, or their academy guys looking sharp. Didn't look out of place. That's great to see. And overall, that the systems that we have in place with little tweaks and adjustments, we can get a really good performance like that. That I think will kickstart the season. So yeah, that's my overall thoughts. Really proud. Can't wait to see what happens next. Obviously, the Dolphins, if we can get that one done, we go into the bye with our heads up. So exciting times, guys. Hope you're enjoying that one. I'm going to go watch a couple more replays of it. I'm going to enjoy that one. That will definitely be one of the games at least of 2024. The other thing is Webby got one over a top four squad, and it was in the most unconventional way that we thought with that type of team, but we got it done. I think that's a scalp that Webby's needed. Get one over Ivan. We can take that into a potential playoff run with confidence that we can compete. So congrats, Webby. He needed that one. I think that's going to be a motivating force for him and for the team to continue to build into the season. Let's hope we get it done against the Dolphins. I'm quite confident actually now, but excited. Wait for the team list tomorrow and then talk a little bit more about it. But thanks, guys. If you have been here, hope you enjoyed the content that we are providing. If you can give us a like and subscribe if you're here for the first time, then Wise Up TV for all your New Zealand Warriors content. But we appreciate you. Love you. Stay safe, and we'll catch you later. Up the Wise.